It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. As the COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak rages on globally, Nigeria has confirmed 30 cases, 28 of which are active. In response, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu called his second press conference to address the situation. Arise correspondent Adefemi Akinsoya was present and sent this report. Who, what, why, where, and how? With the majority of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Lagos, these are questions that need answers. So we came to get them from the governor himself, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, at the Lagos State House in Marina.
These are challenging times for all of us, demanding a change in our behavior and attitude across all strata. I am now hereby also directing that all public officers in the entire unified public service from grade level 1 to 12, which constitute about 70% of our entire public workforce, should stay at home from Monday, 23rd March 2020 for 14 days at the first instance.
Sanwo-Olu also called on private sector leaders to allow their employees to work from home where possible. Lagos is an incredibly densely populated state. But with a population of more than 20 million people and a relatively limited number of beds, hospitals and centres available, a mass outbreak could deplete medical resources in Lagos fast, a scenario the government insists it will do all it can to avoid.
If anything happens in Badagry, we don't have to come to Yaba, we can isolate you in Badagry. If it happens in Ekpe, we've identified we can isolate you in Ekpe, and that's how you can curtail, the movement. And we're working and we're ensuring that even some of our retirees who we've started talking to, we've triggered them and they're waiting to be called upon if there's a need for that.
If we need to move further, we have also identified certain general hospitals across the state that will serve as isolation centers across the state. First being Bagada General Hospital, that has a block that is entirely empty, just waiting for occupation. So the truth is that as things evolve, we have a plan in place, there's a strategy in place, and as things unfold, as things evolve, capacity will grow to fit what the requirement is at that time.
We're sure that we'll win this battle, and we've always won in Lagos. And with your cooperation, with all of the corporations, we're believing that this will also pass over us very quickly.
Well, we've just finished the press conference with the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and the consensus of his speech was that Lagosians should remain calm, should practice personal hygiene of making sure that their hands are clean. There is access to utensils to make sure that people are keeping their hands clean. The consensus from the Lagos State Governor and his government is that Lagos is ready for COVID-19 should the situation exacerbate in the coming few days. Adefemi Akinsoya, Arise News, Lagos. Well, awful conditions notwithstanding, with this looming spectre of COVID-19, it's a good time to live in Lagos. I do find the governor's kind of earnest manner that he generally has really reassuring in this kind of situation. It's really clear that they're thinking about every single eventuality. I like the point that was raised, not in Femi's report, but during the press conference, about what's going to happen with the markets, that they're thinking about that. Femi's report, he said that around 70% of the Lagos State workforce has been asked to, stay at home. They're really trying to manage the situation the best they can.
I think that the Lagos State government should be commended,
yes.
And Babajide Sanwo-Olu particularly, who describes himself as the anti-coronavirus commander in Lagos, which means, in simple terms, that he has taken personal charge of the process of ensuring that we do not have, a spread in Lagos. Lagos has a population of about 20 million people, population that is even bigger than that of many of the countries in Europe, which have become epicenters of the coronavirus spread. And we see a government that understands the reality of its own circumstances, that were there to be an explosion in Lagos, it will overstretch the resources of the state, and the state may not be able to handle it. But so far, so good. The government has done a lot in terms of public enlightenment. All the government-owned stations have since been, informing the people in local languages, in Pidgin English, even with music, even in very creative ways. And almost on a daily basis, we see the state government of Lagos informing the people. I would have loved to see the same dynamism in other states of the Federation. Ogun State is trying to catch up. Yesterday, the governor of Ogun State, sent out a task force to go and shut down churches and places of religious worship that defied government directives. And we've seen also in Ogun State, the governor, Prince Abiodun, making an effort to stay in front of the campaign. Other states will need to emulate this. It's not just Ogun State or Lagos State. We've seen some activity also in Ekiti State, but we need to see that activity at all levels, local government, communities, and everywhere. Now, what the Lagos State government has done that is also very instructive is that yesterday, the Lagos State government also advised all civil servants up to grade level 12 to stay at home. So the Lagos State government is effectively, more or less, in a near state of lockdown. And probably that was why this morning there was no traffic on the streets of Lagos. Schools have also been shut down. Bars, restaurants have all been shut down in the state of Lagos. And the state has taken the additional step of enforcing this ban. I hope that other people, other governors, other leaders in Nigeria will follow this example, emulate it, and try to protect Nigerians. Because what we have seen, not just in Nigeria, also in Russia, where some people have been posting messages saying they have called out hyenas and lions onto the streets just to force people to stay at home. Or in Britain, the United Kingdom, where Boris Johnson is saying in the next 24 hours, the government may have no option but to impose stricter measures. Because people were on the beaches yesterday, they were at the beaches yesterday saying they were celebrating the spring break. And government had to say, look, if you won't obey directives, we will lock down the whole of the United Kingdom. So government has to take it serious. However, there's one point that needs to be made. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control issued a statement saying that now briefings will be only on the NCDC microsite, their blogging site. I think that's scandalous. A daily press briefing, full disclosure of what is going on is what Nigerians need. They can't reduce the thing to just one blog belonging to the Nigerian Center for Disease Control. How many Nigerians have access to that? When the NCDC and the Federal Ministry of Health and the Presidential Task Force, when they address us on a daily basis, it serves the purpose of informing the people appropriately. Because then all Nigerians will have the opportunity of watching it on television or newspapers will translate it. And you cannot even restrict the media from it. And you say it's something to be located on one microsite. Whatever the problem is at the federal level should be addressed. And I hope that it's not the case that there is an ego competition between the various stakeholders. They call themselves multi-sectoral stakeholders. The Minister of Health must work with the Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and work with other stakeholders. This is not politics. This is not about ego. This is not about who takes the credit. This is about human lives and the survival of Nigerians and other human beings in this environment. So it's not a thing somebody will go and hide on one website. How many of us have access to website? So I think that is important, and everyone should learn from the example of Lagos State, where the governor is out there daily briefing the people. All the officials are out there briefing the people on a daily basis. And we want to hope that the federal government will review its closure of the airports along certain lines. What do I mean by this? We are told that apart from passenger flights, cargo flights have also been banned. So if we need sanitizers, how do the sanitizers come in? So there must be more creative thinking. It's not people just waking up and just thinking on the top of their heart, instead of adopting rigorous, consultative, intelligent thinking.
Thank you for that. The NCDC's attitude is completely unacceptable, especially when we've seen how information dissemination is slow and it's uneven. There's still a lot of people in this country today who believe that because they are black, they are immune. This goes to show how the message must be hammered, reiterated constantly, tirelessly. It's really not enough. It does not suffice to say, log on to our website. Like you said, your average market woman is never going to log on to any website. It's completely scandalous at this point. We'll take a short break now, and we'll be back with more news headlines. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. We're still on the headlines. A $1 trillion Senate proposal to rescue the reeling U.S. economy has crashed to defeat after receiving zero support from Democrats and with 5 Republicans absent from the chamber because of virus-related quarantines. Democrats said the Republican proposal failed to sufficiently protect millions of American workers during the coronavirus crisis. The bill, which proposed up to $2 trillion in funding for American families, thousands of shuttered or suffering businesses, and the nation's critically under-equipped hospitals, fell far short despite intense negotiations between Republicans, Democrats, and President Trump's administration. The Senate roll call was 47-47 when it needed 60 votes to advance. 5 senators are in self-quarantine and did not vote. Unfortunately, this doesn't come as a surprise. The writing was on the wall right from the beginning when the Republicans decided to close ranks and come up with this bill and then invite the Democrats to participate. At this point, like you were saying earlier, it's not about egos. We have to rise above partisanship and parochial sentiments of any sort. This is a pandemic, lest anybody needs reminding. And the approach was all wrong, and this is what we see. The Democrats have rejected it soundly, saying that all it does is offer a buffer to Trump and his cronies and not to the real Americans who are suffering and really need the support.
Well, I think in principle, both the Republicans and the Democrats agreed that there's need for a coronavirus economic stimulus package for the simple reason that, the futures market is almost collapsing. Everybody is affected. People are losing their jobs. Where they disagree is in the details. And the Democrats are insisting that this is a Republican package. This is not a bipartisan package. And I'm more or less quoting, the Speaker of the House of Reps, Nancy Pelosi. So as at yesterday evening, they could not agree on what should be the details for states, for local governments, for small-scale enterprises, and the Democrats are resolved that, look, this is a package put together by the Republicans to help big corporations. McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, tried to put his feet down, tried to railroad the Democrats, but the Democrats refused. There was supposed previously, as of yesterday, to be a meeting at 9:45 a.m. this morning, Eastern Time, but the Democrats refused. So by 1 p.m. ET, Congress is likely to come together again. There have been negotiations overnight, but what would they agree upon at the end of the day? So it's about working out the details. And the objective, of course, is to find a situation whereby the solution is bipartisan. What has happened now has, derailed the optimism we had initially when the House of Reps initially passed the economic stimulus package. But it had to have the concurrence of the Senate. But as of yesterday evening, we've seen this debate about what should be the details and who should lead favor. But whatever happens at the end of the day, we are likely to see a package which will not even be $1 trillion, which will be about $2 trillion. That's what they are looking at. But there are lessons that we can learn from this. We see Capitol Hill, getting really involved in the economic stimulus package being put together by the United States government and debating it on behalf of the people. Here in Nigeria, we still see a disconnect between the government, the executive arm of government, and the legislature. Now, the legislature is just there sitting back. All the announcements that we have had have been majorly from the CBN side of it, in terms of monetary policy. And then at another level, from the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, and let's discount NNPC, which had no business making any announcement in the first place, but from the Petroleum Products Prices Regulatory Agency. Where is the fiscal side in Nigeria? Where is the debate on the floor of the National Assembly in terms of how we can have, in addressing this challenge, a proper alignment between monetary policy and fiscal policy. Monetary policy is alive, even if we do not agree with some of the details, but the fiscal side is missing.
As usual.
Yeah, well, as usual. And the CBN has been having to carry Nigeria on its back, for more than 5 years now. And I think, although we criticize Godwin Emefiele now and then and his CBN, but, he seems to be overwhelmed. He seems to be overburdened.
Yes.
I like his enthusiasm, but we need to have a proper alignment. And we would like to see a National Assembly, a legislature in Nigeria that shows, as much concern about the welfare of the people as we see in the example of the United States. I think at the end of the day, the matter on the floor of the Senate in the United States will be resolved. But the basic principle is about caring for the people, trying to see what can be done to help the people at a time of crisis. Even in the United Kingdom, the Chancellor, Sunak, is talking about, look, bailout for small businesses, a lifeline.
Universal basic income as well as discussed.
And people who are out of work, how can they be helped? Can they be paid salaries while they are out of work?
Holidays, all these incentives and initiatives, yes. We have a long way to go here.
Well, there are lessons that we can learn. So I hope the U.S. Congress resolves this matter at 1 p.m. Eastern Time today. But it will require, a lot of horse trading, a lot of negotiations. And they've been talking overnight. It should be a bipartisan solution,
it has to be.
Not a Republican solution.
Yes. They're thinking about winning elections, unfortunately. Now to Italy, where the number of deaths of people with the COVID-19 disease jumped to 5,476 in the last 24 hours, while new infections rose by 10% to over 59,000. 952 more people have recovered, bringing the total number of people recovered to 7,024. The head of Italy's Civil Protection Agency, Angelo Borelli, noted that the increases had narrowed from recent days, adding that he hoped this trend will be continued in the coming days. However, he stressed that authorities should not lower their guards.
Registriamo 952 guariti in più.
Today we recorded 952 more healed people, which brings the total number of healed people to 7,024. The increase in the number of people currently positive is 3,957. The total of currently positive is 46,638. Of these, 23,783 are in home isolation without symptoms or with mild symptoms, 3,000 in intensive care, which is 6% of the total. Unfortunately, we still have 651 deaths. Today's numbers are smaller than the numbers we gave yesterday against the trend. I hope, and we all hope, that these numbers can be confirmed in the coming days. However, we should not lower our guard. We must respect the measures that have been given. We must respect the indications that have also been given with the government measures.
It's just so scary to note that Italy is now the global epicenter for COVID-19. It used to be China, now it's Italy, and where next? So that's one horrendous prospect to face. But while Italy struggles to flatten the curve, it's really important that they have noted that people should not lower their guard at all, because infection could always spike. What has been working so far is the draconian self-isolation that has had to be imposed on the people of Italy. Unfortunately, it's too late for lots of people, but it's still saving millions of lives, because unfortunately, their elderly population, for the most part, especially men, 70% are elderly men, seem to be succumbing to the disease. But imagine if there was no social isolation, it would be even worse.
Yes, the point you made about the elderly is very important, because what we know about the COVID-19 is that elderly people and persons with predisposing conditions who have some ailments, are most vulnerable. If you look at the percentages, persons between the age of, say, 15 and 40-something young people, are not part of the percentages of persons who have died as a result. So the elderly are vulnerable. And that's why in the United Kingdom, for example, even the Queen and all elderly persons in the royal family have been advised to keep themselves in isolation. But Italy is a particularly bad case, because Italy's demographics is majorly elderly people. And most of these elderly people who have come down with coronavirus have ended up being casualties at the end of the day. But from that report, we were being told that in the last few days it's been going down. We hope that at the end of the day, Italy, which has become the epicenter, you said global epicenter, it was epicenter for Europe previously, that China is able to manage it. But I hope that China also, will provide the logistics, the expertise, the experience, the information, and share it with the rest of the world and see how other countries can be helped. Now, Italy may say that the curve is going down, is flattening a little bit, but in Spain, it's been going up. 700 deaths over the weekend in Spain, and that's quite frightening. In fact, we're at a point now when, some persons in Europe are asking that, look, European countries will need some kind of Marshall Plan. That's a front page story in the Financial Times today, a Marshall Plan for economic recovery. Because even when, coronavirus disappears and the world is able to manage it, you will find that Europe will be in very dire economic straits. Stock markets have collapsed, businesses have been destroyed, the travel industry is upside down, everybody is in serious trouble. And that, of course, will have a corresponding impact on what goes on import-dependent economies in Africa. Again, I keep talking about Africa because over the weekend, from 663 cases on Friday, Africa has recorded, over 1,000 cases and about more than 36 deaths across the continent. Is Africa ready? What is the capacity of African countries to be able to deal with this? You said earlier that many Africans still say coronavirus cannot survive in hot, humid weather, which is not true. Some people think that if they drink alcohol, they will be fine. Some people think over the weekend there was something about the neem tree, what Yorubas call dogoyaro tree, as a solution. Some people think that if they have a hot bath. Now, all these myths have to be exploded. The black man is not immune from it. And we have seen black persons in other parts of the world, including Idris Elba and others, and his wife, coming down with the disease. So we probably still need to do a lot here in terms of public enlightenment, and everyone, to quote what you said originally, have to be on their guards.
Yes, absolutely.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now for business news is Arise business analyst Rotus Odure. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning. How are you doing? Good morning, everybody. So we got some exclusive. We found out at Arise News that the international oil companies, the IOCs, are implementing strategies to essentially have most of their staff work from home. So the non-essentials are going to be working from home. And Arise News spoke with the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Mr. Mele Kyari, who confirmed that they were going to be putting in these strategies in order to make sure that the impact of the coronavirus is not, doesn't severely affect the oil and gas industry. He did say, though, that as far as production is concerned, oil production, gas production is concerned, they don't expect it to affect them much, but they have to implement these strategies. We also spoke with the group, Arise News also spoke with the Group General Manager of NAPIMS, which is the National Petroleum Investment and Management Service. They are the ones that handle upstream investments for the country. And he also said that he confirmed the same information and said it is in line with the business continuity initiatives that were set in place between the NNPC and the IOCs, the oil and gas, international oil companies. And it's based on what they call the 3 PRs, preparation, prevention, and protection for their employees. So we can see that even in this, there's almost no sector that's been spared from this recent practice of having some employees work from home in order to reduce the spread of the virus. So it's something that Arise News just found out. It's exclusive news from the oil and gas industry, and again, it just shows that, look, we're continuing to be in a space where we are seeing the ripple effects of how this is affecting business.
Well, the point is that coronavirus is affecting not just livelihoods or relationships or businesses or economies. It's also affecting how, investors plan their businesses. And, it's not just about the IOCs, the international oil companies. I think every company, must have an inbuilt strategy to be able to manage shocks, uncertainties, risks. Coronavirus presents, special phases of risks, uncertainties, and shocks, hitherto unanticipated. And so the IOCs may have followed, the policy of social distancing by saying people can work from home. They have the capacity, they have the technology. Right. And, the crisis that we face at this moment is a test for the level of technological advancement, the knowledge level of many businesses. Now, many businesses in Nigeria, banks, and other corporates, they claim that they've computerized, they are using technology, they are taking advantage of the age of digitalism. This puts them to the test.
Yes.
I would like to see, apart from the IOCs, other companies saying that their workers should work from home. Say, for example, the banks. I mean, we're in the age of what is it called? Financial inclusion, called digitalization, yes. Cashless society. Okay, do we have any bank in Nigeria, particularly among the first-tier banks, who can say, well, perhaps our workers can work conveniently from home? Do they have the technology? Do we have other companies like that can do that? So that we can all achieve this objective of social distancing. The whole of Europe has been shut down, right? There are many people in Europe who are working from home. It's because there is technology. And that's the lesson of it, that technology perhaps can provide some safety nets for all of us in the face of crisis. Again, we return to the basic principle about business continuity plans. The whole idea of having a business continuity plan is that if you have a business and there is a crisis, there is this kind of pestilence, then of course you'll be able to work around it. So it's not just the IOCs. Other sectors of the Nigerian economy should learn from the example of the IOCs and see how they can work from home. Already the Lagos State government has said its workers from grade 0 to 12 should work from home, beginning from today. For Governor Sanwo-Olu to come forward with that kind of affirmation, he must have the confidence that the Lagos State system is sufficiently computerized enough that people can work from a distance and take advantage of technology. And we would like to see how that works out. We assess it in the course of this week and provide an assessment.
Yeah, well, he does seem very confident, and he did say that the public should not be visiting offices, they should use the online facilities. However, working from home has two components. There's your technology as a business, and there's the infrastructure that supports that technology. How can you guarantee that all your staff at home have electricity, for instance, to perform a basic function like charging their phone, charging their laptops? How do you know that?
Valid question.
And a lot of people, their Wi-Fi, if at all they have it, is sketchy. So there's a lot that goes into this. As you said, this is something that we'll be reviewing as it goes on. Yes.
But Tuno, let me add to that the human side. Many of the people who are working from home in Europe, they've been complaining about boredom, about anxiety, So, but I guess people just have to manage to survive this season.
One way or the other.
Because some people are not used to being isolated.
Yes,
and people are panicking. But the major people who are benefiting, I keep saying it, are the telcos.
Oh, of course.
Because we spend more time on telephone, we spend more time on WhatsApp, and I hope that maybe the telcos will also realize that this is a time to be socially responsible. I would like to see the telco giants in Nigeria, for example, reducing their rates, particularly on data, so that they can show that, they are committed to this war against coronavirus.
The telcos would argue that if you don't want to, you cannot use your phone. During that period, they will say you can read a book. Yeah, because if you look at, for example, at least we've got two publicly traded telco firms on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With MTN, who released their results, the most recent results in full year 2019, they got a sizable chunk of their revenue came from data charges. So
I remember that report.
Yeah, exactly.
So is profit more important than human lives?
Right, but they would argue that. But the wider conversation, I was going to get your thoughts, and I think your guest, Dr. Hussein Abdul, touched on this. Out of for the informal economy, it's still largely cash-based, right? You think of your barbershop owner of a salon, the market women and so on. How do they sustain themselves for 2 or 3 weeks of having no activity? You know, we've talked about the formal side, the international oil companies and businesses, what Lagos State is doing with the civil service. But for the mom and pop shops and on other individuals that still largely depend on cash, how do they survive if this goes beyond 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
But they won't unless they have cash transfers like we saw during the elections. They simply won't.
Right.
If it's a you don't work, you don't eat scenario, that's it. I was reading about this lady in America who has started going without meals so that her children can eat, because she's a member of that informal sector.
Right.
That is happening in America. What's going to happen here?
It's mixed up.
The government has to step in and give them handouts. They have to.
That's the thing. This thing with handouts.
Where will the handouts come from?
The cost is high.
Except the CBN has to do quantitative
it has to be found.
and print money. Ways and means.
It has to be found. Because how are they going to eat?
The same CBN is overstretched.
It's overstretched.
His balance sheet is damaged.
Well, the money has to be found.
Another thing, also, cash is still another way, as far as warnings and being alert to the spread of the virus. Cash is still, at least transferring physical cash if you're infected, it's still a way for it to be passed around. So that is another thing. Yeah, and then I will say this, the central bank has been very active in trying to get dirty notes out of the system and getting more cleaner notes out there. But so while we're talking about the informal economy and cash-based businesses, it is still a worry, as far as cash transactions and passing the virus for one person to the next. So that is still something that's out there that we have to be conscious of.
But whoever is handling cash has to just wash their hands. We're about to read newspapers today.
Right.
How do we know that there's no COVID-19 or coronavirus on the paper? I mean, you just really have to practice that hand hygiene religiously. Because even if you're paying with a card, how you hand over your card and you press the pin, don't you?
POS machines,
exactly.
ATMs, right.
There's no way of completely avoiding
Looks
contact.
like Armageddon is here.
Not yet, sorry. I'm freaking out, frankly.
I mean, if you look at the economies that are shut down, it is quite scary. It is quite scary. But the other big news was, of course, the D word happened, although the central bank governor isn't calling it that. He's calling it a price adjustment with regards to
which is devaluation by another word.
Because the foreign exchange, and we look at currencies and so on, it's the price of one currency in terms of another. So if you are adjusting the price, you're devaluing,
what
right?
Else is
right, exactly. So it happened. I know the central bank sent out a circular which stated that as far as the banks are concerned, for international money transfer service operators, for banks receiving funds from them, they're going to get that at the rate of 376. Then those banks per dollar, those will now sell to the CBN at 377. That's the bank. So international money transfers to the banks at 376, the banks to the CBN at 377, the CBN to the BDCs at 378, at Bureau de Change, and then the BDCs to you and I, the end users,
to
at
BDCs at 378,
and then to us,
BDCs to end users
at 380.
At 380.
So that pretty much tipped off the market that, look, the central bank, this price adjustment or devaluation has finally happened. The question now is, of course, the impact, what this means. The key impact, though, is for the federal government in terms of FAC allocations, the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee. The amount of, you sell oil, you get dollars, you convert, and then you distribute between the federal government, state governments, and the local governments. More cash is going to be coming in. The official rate, though, I should point this out, has gone from 307 to 360. If you go to the central bank's website, centbank.org, you will see their macroeconomic indices there, inflation, oil prices, and the official rate. So it's at 360 for the central bank. So that's what official rate. That's what the FAC allocations are now going to be coming in. So it's more money for them. On the other side, though, is that for you and I, we're going to, of course, spend more if we want to get foreign exchange. And there could be some impact on inflation, because our inflation is largely cost push. So it's finally happened. Can it be maintained where oil prices are now? Will the central bank be forced to do this again down the road? Because some have said that the Naira is still overvalued and possibly should move to a higher rate. We'll see. But here we are. It's happened.
Well, I'm not impressed by this quibbling over semantics. they've used all kinds of phrases. They say it's technical devaluation. There's no such thing. Devaluation is devaluation.
Right.
Adjustment of price. Maybe the CBN is afraid to use the word devaluation. What we know about devaluation is that, look, you lower the value of your currency and you create a single foreign exchange window. So once you do that, you have devalued your naira. Devaluation has its advantages and disadvantages, right? If you devalue your currency, it's supposed to help exports, stimulate growth, right? But in an import-dependent economy, you know, how would devaluation help us?
Right.
Both ways, we may not record any serious gain. And the way to solve the problem is that the CBN probably needs to take certain consequential steps. Are we looking at the reduction of interest rate? Because interest rate remains very high. If interest rate remains very high in a devaluation regime, what is the implication for the job economy? Now, the people who are going to suffer will be you and I, who probably will depend on Forex to travel, to buy all these imported goods. In an unproductive economy, you know, what we see is a lot of misalignment. That's the first point. Two, everybody has been arguing, including the Bretton Woods institutions, that the maintenance of a multiple foreign exchange window by Nigeria is, in the long run, inimical to economic growth.
But this move unifies
now,
it.
what we have seen now is a convergence.
Yes, and unifying.
Now, it looks like the CBN that had always argued that the multiple exchange window, foreign exchange window was necessary, has now been forced by circumstances, you know, to accept that that strategy was not working. So this is not the product of any original thinking or creative thinking. It's just out of helplessness,
your hand was forced.
Pure helplessness. Now, at the end of the day, I think that, you know, the CBN will have to look at other sides of it. This came out of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting.
They are meeting today and tomorrow.
Okay, so they are meeting again.
Yeah,
so we will expect that those consequential steps about interest rate will come up. The final point has to do about fiscal policy. Now, I read Zainab Ahmed saying something somewhere about, on the fiscal side, the government will also try to do some things. What does that mean? That's too vague.
Specific.
There must be proper alignment between monetary policy and fiscal policy.
Yes.
And the CBN cannot be the only body that is carrying the burden of the Nigerian economy at this time of crisis. Anyway, thank you, Richard.
Thank you so much.